And so I'm going to start off with James 1, 2 through 4, so if you want to join me, feel free to. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. And so we've all faced trials in our lives, and they're different for everyone. And I'm going to use an example that I see in high school a lot, and that is self-worth. Teens work so hard to be recognized or fit in. We put on these masks of fake identities that we hide behind to try to be loved by our peers. We don't realize that we only really be happy with who we are when we ourselves recognize that we are made perfect and complete, like James says. We don't have any missing pieces, and we don't have to try to be a different person for someone. Let me tell you something. The next time someone tries to tell you to fit in, or you need to act like somebody else, you just have to tell yourself, see, they don't know. They don't know that God made me perfect. They don't know how awesome this perfection is in God's name. So, and a lot of other trials I see are addiction or depression or violence. We all struggle with something different. And I like to picture life as this big, long track. And our struggle and hardships appear as these hurdles. And I was never much of a runner in high school, and the mile was like the worst possible thing, feared it. And so we're going to throw hurdles in now, so just bear with me. And so it might be easy enough at first on our life track. We might come across a few smaller hurdles, but things we're able to address right away, leap over, might even celebrate a little for a job well done. But as we get further and further along, our big hurdles start to come up. The ones that loom over us and cause us to stop and stare. And these are our big uh-oh moments. And we think, how am I, little me, going to get over this? That's a short joke, by the way. And so sometimes we fail to see that we need help. We need God and we need faith. We might even try at first to get through it by ourselves. America, as very stubborn humans, has our own pull ourselves up by the bootstraps policy. But eventually we end up falling and falling over and over again, never being able to quite get over that hurdle. These things can be hard to accept sometimes. We don't always want help, or we think that God isn't going to help me. We sometimes even blame God for the hardships we face. But we have to realize that no temptation, no evil comes from God. In James 1, 13, 14, it says, when tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own will and enticed. See, when we accept this, it becomes easier to go to God for help. I think sometimes we paint this bad picture that God is too busy or not caring enough to help us. But God is omnipresent and omnipotent. That means he's everywhere and all-powerful. He cares for each and every one of us. I mean, how awesome, how beautiful is that? He cares for me. He cares for everyone in this room. He cares for the janitor you see every day at work. He cares for the drive-thru employee at the McDonald's you went through yesterday. How awesome is that? He cares, and yet we're scared. We're scared to go to our Father when all he wants is for us to come to him. All he wants us is to do to ask for help. To invite him into our lives and ask and you shall receive. And we finally do let him into our lives. He comes with such energy and passion for us. He embraces us with a warm fatherly hug. He wants to help us. He comes with a plan to help us. He tells us, this is what you need to do. Now listen, my child. And he'll tell us exactly what we need to do. Now sometimes, as humans again, we're not always the greatest listeners. Or we even don't exactly want to do everything that God tells us. We might be fine with everything he says at first, but then he says something we might not quite be comfortable with it. Let me ask you a question. Who is uncomfortable with getting up and going to the altar to pray? It's terrifying. But sometimes we are called to do that. And then we just, okay, God, we're like, ugh. See, I don't know about that one, God. I don't know. I'm not quite comfortable with that. God's like, wait, what? We were doing all these amazing things. Why stop now? Everything was working out. And we just respond like, I don't know, God. It's like, they're going to be looking at me and their eyeballs are going to be judging. And it's like, we can just skip over this one, right? And move on with the whole fixing my life. But we have to learn that God is going to get us out of our comfort zones. God wants us to go out there and do these amazing things in his name. And that might be hard for us. We've all been called to something, and it's important we recognize that and listen to that calling. He gives us all these amazing, unique gifts to help us with these callings. He gives some compassion, some leadership, and some communication. And when we learn to use these gifts God gave us to pursue our calling, we start to see a bridge form. We see a bridge form over that hurdle that loomed over us. And the path there might have been hard, but one of my favorite quotes is that it's not always about the destination, but about the journey. See, our journey with God is what defines us and makes us who we are. And so when our faith is tested, it's not that so we go through these hardships, but so that we look back at our journey with God. We look back at all these amazing times, the times he's given us, how he's helped us in the past. And when we do, that produces patience. 2, we need to fully listen and accept God's plan for us and follow through with it. We need to not try to tell God what we want to happen, but instead listen to what he will make happen. We need to use the gifts God gives us to pursue our calling. We shouldn't be shy to share our strengths in these amazing gifts God gave us. Instead, we should take joy in that he chose us to give these gifts to and use every opportunity we can to show God through them. Or we need to take time to go back and look at our journey with God. We need to thank God for the things he has done in our lives and to thank him for the amazing plan he has for each and every one of us. I thank God so much for my calling into ministry. He gives me this amazing opportunity to speak in front of you all today. Yes. And finally, we need to understand that God has a perfect plan, a perfect future for us. That doesn't mean we're never going to struggle, but that we're going to be happy. We're going to have a loving Father who is waiting for us when we come crying for help. We need to put aside our own human intuitions and instead put God there. Follow through with what he tells us and let his plan work into our lives. When you do that, I can promise you that you will see changes. You're going to see these amazing things happen in your life that you never thought possible. In 2015, when our youth group went into desperation, I was called into youth ministry. That was never an option for me before. Like, last thing I thought. And so, when I decided to follow that calling this year, junior year, I did poorly. I kind of ignored it a little bit. But when I finally decided, God, this is what you're calling me to. God, I want this. Now what do you want me to do? He had put so many awesome opportunities in front of me. The opportunity to speak in front of you. The opportunity to be part of 410 and go to Alaska this summer. Yes. Alaska is, I'm so excited for Alaska. And I promise you, you will see change and you will see growth in your life. So if you just choose to listen, you will see that bridge form. Thank you guys for your time.